much anticipated F175 launch was meant to be the Formula One spectacle to end all spectacles, bringing together all 10 teams for an epic unveiling of their liveries and a grand ceremony to kick off the new season in grand style. It was a bold gamble by the governing body as they hoped to channel the incredible electric energy of Netflix's drive to survive into the live show and bring that unique magic to a new and unprecedented level. What happened next? Well, let's just say the excitement quickly fizzled out, and the whole thing turned into a bit of a fiasco, a disappointment of epic proportions. Let's talk about Drive to Survive for a second. You can't possibly ignore its overwhelming influence on Formula One. The Netflix series took an already beloved, high adrenaline sport and launched it into the mainstream, transforming Formula One from a niche hobby into a global spectacle, something everyone seemed to know about. The show definitely emphasized the drama and turned up the volume on rivalries, sometimes stretching the truth for good TV. But, hey, it worked. For the casual viewer, the person who doesn't know the first thing about tyre strategy or the mechanics of an undercut, Drive to Survive was an absolute gem, pulling them into the wild, fast-paced world of Formula One and introducing them to the characters, drama, and stories behind the racing. But back to F175. The idea seemed simple enough, almost too simple. Let's put all the teams together for one big, massive livery launch event. No more individual, low-key events. No, this was going to be the Formula One show of the year, an extravagant, jaw-dropping spectacle. Everyone would get to see all the teams at once, under one roof, in a single, unified event. It sounded great in theory, but in reality, not so good. You see, Formula One has a tried-and-true method when it comes to car launches. Each team does their own thing. Some teams prefer a quick and easy render reveal online. Others go all out with big events to drum up excitement and keep fans and sponsors engaged. The best part of this model is that every team gets their moment in the spotlight. They get their own chance to shine, giving fans that special, personal connection with each team and car. And let's face it, these launch events are an excellent way to get commercial partners involved and give them a little taste of the limelight too. But F175 wiped all that out. The teams were forced to ditch their own traditions and march to the beat of a very different drum, all in the name of this grand event. And that's where things started to go wrong. There was no new car to showcase, no innovative new design to dazzle the crowd, no groundbreaking changes to stir up excitement. So they opted for liveries, paint jobs. And guess what? Most of them looked almost identical to last year's. An event designed to drum up hype and excitement, only to have most teams reveal the same damn thing they had last season. Talk about a letdown. As you can imagine, the mood in the arena quickly shifted from excitement to confusion. Where was the magic? The innovation? The thrilling promise of something new? It all felt a little bit flat. The event kicked off with a bang, though. Machine Gun Kelly came out, blaring rock riffs and lighting up the stage with lasers and pyrotechnics. The crowd went wild, the energy was electric, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the show was actually going to be something special. But then Sauber did their reveal. They pulled the covers off their car, and, wait for it, it looked almost exactly like last year's. Oh, come on! What a way to kill the vibe. And here's the thing. The crowd had been so hyped, so ready for something fresh and exciting. But what they got was a glorified car wrap, that initial high energy, gone. The buzz? Fading fast like a balloon deflating at a kid's party. Alpine tried to bring the heat with a dramatic livery reveal, but even their efforts fell a little flat. Sure, they had Brian Tyler, the composer of the iconic Formula One theme, hyping up the crowd with some dubstep beats and getting everyone's heart rate up. But when they finally rolled out the car, the crowd just kind of shrugged. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the game changer they were hoping for either. It was, at best, a mild upgrade from last year's paint job. Still, Alpine's livery was one of the few that felt like it had a bit of effort behind it, so kudos to them for managing to inject at least a little bit of excitement into the event. They didn't leave everyone completely disappointed. Then entered Red Bull, and oh boy, this is where things really start to get interesting. Now, we all know Max Verstappen, the guy who would rather spend the day getting elbow deep in an engine and figuring out how to make his car faster than standing on a stage with a microphone in his hand. Verstappen is the embodiment of let me race and leave the rest to the clowns. So, when news came out that Max would actually show up to this over-the-top media circus of a launch event, it was, well, it was nothing short of a miracle. We all know Max doesn't do events. Max Verstappen is the guy who would rather fake a sickness and stay in bed than attend anything that isn't directly related to racing. So the fact that Red Bull somehow managed to drag him out of whatever cave he was holed up in, like a reluctant celebrity guest on a talk show, was, quite frankly, hilarious. And, let's be real, it's probably the only thing that gave the event any semblance of suspense and intrigue. You could practically hear the collective chuckles ripple through the crowd when Max took the stage. The man's face said it all. He'd rather be anywhere else. The crowd's reaction was a mix of boos and applause. Some loved the guy, others not so much. It was like they were cheering for a hero, but half of them were just as eager to boo him. And honestly, Max being Max, he didn't care. He was there because his team made him. But what came next? Oh, this was priceless. Christian Horner, Red Bull's fearless leader, made his grand entrance to the tune of the Rolling Stones' Start Me Up. Sure, it's the team's victory song, but it felt more like a, hey, look, we've been winning everything for the past few years, and we're here to rub it in a little. The crowd let him have it, with a mixture of jeers and cheers that you'd expect from a crowd of passionate, homegrown Formula One fans. But Horner? Oh, he didn't flinch. In fact, he leaned into it. He even acknowledged the crowd's less than enthusiastic reception with a wink and a cheeky line. Well, it's fantastic to be here in the O2 anyway. As if he was surprised the fans weren't exactly throwing flowers at his feet. But it didn't end there. Red Bull's car reveal was as underwhelming as expected. The livery was, yep, you guessed it, almost identical to last year's. The real kicker, though, was how Verstappen and his new teammate, Liam Lawson, didn't even bother with the usual driver comments. Instead, Red Bull decided to let Horner give a speech and play a promotional video. A wise move, considering Max was probably counting down the seconds until he could get the heck out of there. Now, the funniest part, the fact that Red Bull's car wasn't even the worst part of the evening. No, that title goes to the FIA, and when I say the crowd roasted them, I mean they really roasted them. It was pure comedy. The FIA, looking very much like the awkward uncle at a family reunion, had their logo flashed up on screen as Laura Winter gave a tribute to their stellar governance over the last 75 years. The crowd, however, was having none of it. The booing was so loud you'd think they had just announced a ban on beer at the races. And the best part? The quick switch to the Pirelli logo, which instantly got cheers. Talk about a message. It wasn't subtle. In fact, it was a little too on the nose, don't you think? So, what does this all mean? Well, F175 proved that while it might have seemed like a good idea at first, it didn't quite hit the mark. Maybe it's time to rethink this all-in-one launch model and go back to letting teams do their own thing. Because honestly, who wants to sit through a 2-hour event only to see the same liveries with a bit of fresh paint? Next time, Liberty Media might want to take a hint from the crowd. Give us new cars or give us something better. F175 might have had legs, but it needed a little more substance and a lot less awkwardness. This is Front Lockout, signing off.